after dethroning Stipe Miocic last Saturday in UFC 260, UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, who's with us on First Take, he's ready for more, fellas. Ngannou said he'd like to fight twice more this year and named Jon Jones as who he'd like to fight. I love this. Moving up from light heavyweight to heavyweight. Max, talk to me. Ngannou versus Jones. Who has more to gain if this goodness is going to happen for us, this gift in 2021?
The answer is actually Ngannou, who I think will be favored in that fight. I haven't checked the odds. I believe by the time that fight comes off, by the time they're walking to the octagon, if that happens, Ngannou is favored. Because whatever you think of Jon Jones pound for pound, you might think he's the best pound for pound ever. You'd have a case. That's 205 pounds at light heavy in the UFC. Ngannou's coming in 265. That's 60 pounds. Even if Jones bulks up, Stephen A., we saw Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, two separate weight classes.
Yeah.
And Ngannou's been active, and he's getting better and better. So you could say, well, so it'd be an upset for Jones. That's more to gain. Sometimes when one guy already has a name brand that rings bells around the world, where the event will be bigger than anything the other guy's ever been involved with, that actually, even if the other guy is favored, even if Ngannou is favored, he will benefit from the spotlight on him, particularly if he can beat Jon Jones, because that's a name everybody knows. I think Ngannou has a chance to be a crossover superstar. In a way, maybe, and he has a chance to change culture in sports in the sense that the baddest man on the planet's the heavyweight champion, right? At least in boxing it was. But it hasn't been that in the UFC because we haven't had a big monster in the UFC who was dominant and consistent. Brock Lesnar's a big monster. It didn't last very long. That would be Ngannou. And if he beat Jon Jones, he would occupy the same space in people's minds that Mike Tyson once did, that Joe Louis once did, that the icons in boxing once did.
Well, first of all, I think you're wrong. Secondly, I think he already occupies that in my mind. I think the greatest thing that ever happened to the UFC outside of Conor McGregor in terms of being mainstream, particularly in this nation, is the fact that Francis Ngannou is the new heavyweight champion of the world because he walks into the octagon with bad intentions. Nobody expects his opponents to finish the fight. Somebody's going home early, and it's usually them, not him, obviously. And so you look at it from that perspective. I would tell you, Max Kellerman, I would make a legitimate argument that Jon Bones Jones has more to gain from this fight because he's coming up from light heavyweight, because last time we seen him, he was 60 pounds lighter. And I'll give you the reason why. Stipe Miocic went against Daniel Cormier, towered over him. He looked like a welterweight standing next to Ngannou. When they showed him, I was like, my Lord. And he was 230 pounds. And I'm saying, oh, my God, that's how massive that Francis Ngannou looks. So as great as Jon Bones Jones is, as phenomenal as he is, and I think he's the best in the world, the fact that if Ngannou caught him and knocked him out, as great of a victory as that is, because he's got granite in both hands, that wouldn't really surprise a lot of people if Jones got caught. If Jones found a way to beat that monster, moving up, first heavyweight fight, and that's the dude that you beat, all of this talk about Jones, he's probably the best, he's elite, Jon Bones Jones is that, all of that will go out the window. He beats Francis Ngannou.
He's the best pound for pound ever.
The best pound for pound ever. He's the baddest man on the planet. I mean, Francis Ngannou is that now. But Jones to move up, to take that guy on, if Jon Bones Jones wins that fight, I don't know how we can look at him and not say he's the best
I think he has the best argument.
Is the best ever. And that's what I'm saying. So to me, Francis Ngannou, as great as Jon Bones Jones is, everybody knows Francis Ngannou can put anybody to sleep with those fists. But Jon Bones Jones, if you do that, I don't know what argument. What else would there be to say?
What you're arguing, to me it seems, is that in terms of where we rank them in the sport, in terms of what they have to gain from their competitive legacy, I agree with you. But I think there's a bigger thing at stake for Ngannou. If you can beat the biggest name brand really in the history of MMA, at least at light heavyweight or up. The shining star who's supposed to be the best ever. Even if you have a crazy size advantage, you are going to elevate yourself in the pantheon of sports stars differently.
But there's a couple of fights that Jon Bones Jones has had recently where it was tight and you wondered which way the decision was going at light heavyweight. So what I'm saying to you is that, but we still recognize his greatness. But for him to have some of the issues that he has had outside the octagon, for him to still be in the mix, for him to be moving up, he ain't moving up to fight. Like Daniel Cormier at light heavyweight and was a heavyweight champion. Stipe Miocic, I mean, as great as he is, not was, is. He's still great despite his loss. The bottom line of Jon Bones that beat him, all right, that's a great, great accomplishment. But this monster, Francis Ngannou, I mean, if Jon Bones Jones beats him, there's nothing bigger.
And then what? Then where do you go from there if you're Jon Jones? You just beat Ngannou.
I'm trying to tell you right now, I'm not saying he would. He could retire, and we'd be saying the greatest ever.
I agree with that.
By the way,
if he beats Ngannou, if they fight and Jon Jones wins, I think he'll be almost universally recognized as the greatest pound for pound.
Let me say this. What if he knocked him out?
Yeah,
I can't see that.
But now take the reverse. If Ngannou wins in dominant fashion, he's one of the biggest stars in sports.
Yes.
He's not at the moment yet.
But it wouldn't be the greatest ever. Jon Bones Jones win that fight. He's the greatest ever. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.